I consider Streets of Rage to be one of the best beat-em-up series of all time, with Streets of Rage 2 easily being top 5 of all time. But you know what? There are 4 Streets of Rage games. I've played 1, 2, and 4 for this channel, and when it comes to discussions about the franchise as a whole, I also see people talk about 1, 2, and 4, but what about Streets of Rage 3? I feel like I never see any discussion about it, so why is that? Is it bad? Is it just okay, but clearly cranked out to capitalize on the franchise's name? Or is it just some sort of diamond in the rough lost to time like so many Sega games? Time to find out, I suppose. Streets of Rage 3 is of course a side-scrolling beat-em-up, one released on the Sega Genesis. Japan actually got this one first though, with North America and Europe getting it months after Glorious Nippon. I ponder why that is. Maybe we'll find out. Let's get to the game proper now, chicks and dicks. This time out, the Syndicate is back once again with an all-new nefarious plot. They're planning on replacing all of Wood Oak City's top-ranking officials with identical robot clones who will do the bidding of Mr. X. And the time to start doing this has now presented itself after a tragic disaster has struck the city. A massive bomb, powered by the newly found Rakushin element, has detonated, killing thousands of civilians and injuring countless more. This bomb was planted, of course, by the Syndicate, and now they're taking advantage of the chaos to initiate their great replacement plans. Thankfully though, a RoboSci employee digs a little too deep into the corporate files and finds a connection between his corporation and the Syndicate. It turns out Mr. X has been using this corporation as a cover for his misdeeds. This employee, one Dr. Gilbert Zan, decides to tip off Blaze Fielding as to what's going on. Blaze quickly sends words to her closest allies, and Axel and Adam, of course. Axel immediately answers the call to action, but Adam is too busy with his police work to come, so he sends Skate instead. How classy, sending a fucking 14-year-old to do your dirty work for you. The band, however, is back together. These 4 hit the Streets of Rage to disarm the bombs located all across Wood Oak City and bring down the dastardly Mr. X and his damn Syndicate once and for all. Till Streets of Rage 4 at least. Stats in this one are almost identical to 2, with power, technique, speed, and jump returning, but the stamina stat has been replaced with reach. A reasonable stat, I think, but I'm curious, does everybody just have the same amount of health now? Pick your character and it's time to start the game, which actually begins with a cutscene. One where our intrepid heroes are disarming one of the bombs. Dr. Zom was right about its location, but Axel, still not trusting him due to the previous association with the RoboSci Corp, decided to shake down some of the local punks for some more info. So you hit the South Pier warehouse to begin your Batman style of information gathering. Now we're at the meat of Streets of Rage 3 and its gameplay. Has much changed? Well, actually a decent bit, I won't lie to you. Nothing has changed about the fundamentals, of course, basic combo, dashing attack, get off me attacks, what have you. The simplest change off the back now, though, is that you have 2 basic attack buttons. One for your combo and the second for a quick knockback attack. Great for a quick chin check if you have too many thugs coming at you. Get off me attacks, though, now have this associated little power meter right here next to your life bar. When it's at max charge, your special attacks will cost 0 health to execute, meaning your deadly techniques can be used with a bit more impunity and more so in combos to really stack on the damage to your enemies. Everyone can run now as well, meaning Skate has lost one of his unique attributes from 2. In addition to that run, all characters now have an evasive roll executed by tapping up up or down down your D-pad, useful for quick evasions. You also have a leveling system for your running attacks, at least I think it's just the running attacks. If you stay alive while gathering enough points, you'll get a little star next to your name, which means you now have a stronger variant of your dashing attack. This can happen up to 4 times, turning your basic run here into something incredibly deadly, as seen here. Everything else is basically the same though, so anyone who played Streets of Rage 2 will basically be right at home with 3 as well. As you begin your quest, you'll immediately start encountering enemies both old and new, and weapons old and new too. You'll run into Goldie and Vice here first thing. Goldie can block, which is a pretty advanced technique for a basic thug, and Vice will basically auto-grab you the second you're in range of his grubby little mitts. Thankfully, right after, we run into Galcia, same as he ever was. I love the little whistle his elbow drop does, though. Just wanted to say that real quick. His shiny variant in Knife Galcia also returns with variable speed levels now, though, to try to keep you on your toes. Most of the roster for this one is actually returning punks. Signal is here. Honestly, I don't think it's a Streets of Rage without him at this point. Donovan returns as well, uppercut and pipe occasionally in hand. The boa-wearing bikers have returned too, thankfully, because I just love their design. Portly fire breather Big Ben is here, once again unthrowable because he's a fat ass. Alongside him is BDSM degraded boss Electra and her punishing whip. The ninja from 2 also returned, but it feels like enforced this time. I swear there are 3 times as many ninja in this one versus 2. As for newcomers, you'll get very well acquainted with Susie here, a female rank and file who has the incredible ability to leap 10 feet into the air to dropkick you. Agents here are definitely the most noteworthy addition for new people though, since unlike most thugs out there, they have the common sense to carry a heater. Took 2 games for someone other than the final boss to go, hey, guns would probably work really well against these vigilantes. Tiger here replaces the 2 dedicated martial arts characters from the last game, a tigerish looking fighter with an insane array of kicks at his disposal. Oh yeah, the jetpack guys are back too. I was hoping I could just forget these guys ever existed because it's rather annoying to fight flying foes with a grounded moveset. And then there's some robots who are mainly just annoying due to their hopping movements and self-destruct protocol when they're close to death. You fight your way through the warehouse, clobbering fools with a returning baseball bat, and carving them up with a returning katana, too. Oh, almost forgot, characters also now get a unique running attack when wielding certain weapons, like Blaze's knife shoryu right here. Actually, Zan doesn't even use weapons properly, instead turning them into pure energy that he can toss at foes, which that's a pretty interesting skill, honestly. Look, a cat! You fight on the pier with a pretty nice view of the city in the background, while Shiva drops off more thugs to fight you. You fist fight quite literally from midday to dusk, eventually confronting Shiva? What, already? It's level 1, guys, and we're already fighting the bad guy's best henchman from the last game? He's already rocking 2 full life bars, too, and he's not a pushover. He's just as deadly as he was in 2, and I don't have max to clinch him into a submission anymore. But you put him down and the level's finished. Our heroes unfortunately learned nothing from the punks, but thankfully Blaze just knows where to go next. And so you head downtown where all the lights are extremely bright and often strobing, too. The motorists here are super rude, though, since they're constantly trying to run you over. This is an average experience in Detroit. Midway through the downtown area, you run across a double trouble mid-boss in Bruce, a whip-wielding clown, and Rue, a kangaroo in boxing gloves, whose most deadly techniques are not in any way related to punching. Seriously, this tornado attack is fucking brutal, and both are also rocking double life bars. The hell? Tough as they are, if you take down the clown first, Rue just runs off, making the fight a little bit easier. You quickly head into a bump-in nightclub, immediately pummeling the dancers inside. I know these girls are a part of the syndicate, of course, but I find the idea of me just running inside a club and beating the shit out of a bunch of random women to be very amusing. End of the level, you hit the club's bar, where you have to fight another duo boss, and Mona and Lisa, daring acrobatic fighters who are rocking 3 life bars apiece, 2 short blues into 1 long yellow. You know, I think it'd be alright if these 2 had 2 life bars apiece, but we're not even halfway through the game yet, and we're fighting some really beefy bosses. I will take a moment though to compliment the bar's design, it having a giant shark tank as part of it. I feel like this was a common thing back in the 90s, and something we should bring back because it's just so cool. You wipe the smiles from Mona and Lisa, and right after you do, a note comes fluttering down from the heavens. It reads, "Come and inspect the building of our new mall." A clue quite literally just falls into your lap for no real reason. I think the bad guys might have dropped it by accident, but I'm not sure. Thinking about that though is interrupted by a news broadcast informing the heroes that the chief of police of Wood Oak has been kidnapped, and the last person he was seen with was Axel Stone. Axel quickly says he hasn't even seen the chief in 6 months at this point. The party quickly heads to the construction site to continue their quest for answers. And here in the construction zone, you can punch barrels at foes for some huge damage, which is pretty fun, I won't lie. Galcia and Big Ben also show off their little double team attack for the first time here. It's very cute. The construction zone does have a lot of holes you can take advantage of. Do not clip that out of context. After the first area, you get an interesting set piece where Donovan attempts to run you down with a bulldozer, so you need to run, all while breaking concrete barriers in your way. All the while, punching the bulldozer so it doesn't splatter you against those walls. After that, you find a big-ass freight elevator that goes all over the zone, basically. You can also throw people to their deaths from it, so they learned from Streets of Rage's 2 elevators, at least. It's here something odd happened, though. I died. For real. All lives and continues spent. Tell it to you straight, guys, I'm not the best gamer in the world, of course, but I was being honest in my last Streets of Rage videos. I beat 4 without any issues, I made it all the way to the boss gauntlet and won before perishing for the first time in Streets of Rage 1, and in Streets of Rage 2, I beat in 1 shot with no problems. But this game is fucking hard. Enemies have so much life, they take so much punishment in this one for no reason. They also hit like Prime Mike Tyson, they just never stop coming. It's like I'm fighting a vermintide of street trash, except they pose way way more of a threat than some fucking clan rats. It grinds the pace of the game down. Every inch of ground you gain in this game is only after a punishing battle against dozens of thugs. It drains your sanity as much as it drains your health, lives, and continues. I try not to bitch about games being hard. Fuck, God Hand is one of my favorite games of all time. I love the Xbox Ninja Gaiden series, and I enjoy Souls games as much as anyone else, but there's a fine line between fun hard and unfun hard, and this one leaps merrily into the unfun territory and takes off running. In spite of the game being this unfun though, I steeled my resolve and kept trying. Climax of level 3, you get a nice view of the fuzzy city behind you as Axel attacks you? What the heck? But I'm Axel. Well, I'm Axel, but a version that's way less of an asshole in this one. You fight the purple-gloved faker who slowly gets redder and redder like any good boss should. Upon death, this Axel reveals himself as a robot with a human skin. An infiltrator unit already? Android Down Skate demands answers as to why Dr. Zahn is helping them, but Blaze rebukes the young vigilante, stating they'd know nothing without the good doctor. Axel tells them all to shut the fuck up and points out a hidden passageway that's just open for some reason, and stage 4 immediately starts. The Underground. A huge underground railway station that's actively shipping supplies from who knows where to God knows where. All I know is they're an active threat that can run you down and the other thugs down too, so stay vigilant. These tunnels are also infested with ninja too. No surprise either, as the final boss of this area is Yamato, Lord of the Ninja Clan this time out, versus Zamza from the last game. You have to fight this fart knocker 3 separate times, with each version boasting 3 life bars the same size as yours, with each shadow getting more difficult than the last. It's a bitch, but eventually I take Yamato and his shades down. Afterwards, the heroes find a secret hideout of the Syndicate, a hideout that really is more of a ninja house since there's a whole nother clan of the bastards down here. Battling through them, you end up in a rather posh, familiar-looking lobby full of thugs, followed by a rather familiar-looking elevator full of thugs. And then we come to a familiar penthouse with a familiar boss in it. It's Mr. X! Okay, maybe that's why this game was so hard. It only has 5 levels, the end boss is right here, right? X simply just blaze out his whole plan for the hero, saying that he's just replacing every high-ranking official in Wood Oak with androids before he sicks some thugs on you. And after you beat those dudes down, X rises from his throne and starts laughing. Laughing so hard that he bursts into flames, revealing that he too is just an android. One with 4 fucking life bars. And ridiculously fast, high priority, hard-hitting attacks too. Insane movement speed too. Very fun to fight. But he dies and promptly fucking explodes, but still takes time to talk in the next cutscene. Robo-X, unhappy with the hero's unwillingness to join the Syndicate, decides that the kidnapped police chief is no longer needed since he was just leverage over the heroes, and so it's off to the underground prison of the penthouse to save the chief. Upon arrival in the next level, you'll notice a timer on the wall that's slowly ticking down. That's how long you have before the rooms start flooding with poison gas, slowly killing everyone inside. So it's a race against time to rescue the chief and get the hell out of there, of course. Here's where the game can splinter into 2 separate paths, the good and the bad ending. Let me tell you about the good ending. The prison area is a multi-floor location that you traverse by elevator. To find the chief, you need to destroy 2 switches that are located on 2 different floors and one of 3 different doors. Thankfully, they're always in door 2, and the timer doesn't tick down when you're in there fighting. But you still need to fight through goon waves that respawn each time you exit the room. The elevator isn't precisely fast either, and with only 50 seconds to do this all, the timing is actually pretty tight. After you destroy the switches and clear your way back to the first floor, it's a sprint down the hall to find the chief. Thankfully, if you aren't quick enough though, the poison will only slowly kill you and the chief, so you have a little bit of extra time to save him. Not entirely sure how you could figure this out back in the day, but man, it certainly did suck. Saving the chief sets you on the good ending path, but if you fail to do so, it locks you into the bad ending instead. Though you do get a whole different level versus the good routes, I mean, that's cool enough. After you save the chief, or don't, you end up on the rooftop where you have to fight Jet and his gaggle of flying goons. This guy was pretty annoying in 2, being a flyer, so basically impossible to combo, but he's even worse now since he has backup and fucking 5 life bars. Come on, game. Take him down and our boy Adam shows up, blasting the rooftop indiscriminately with machine gun fire before landing and picking you up. The heroes catch Adam up on the situation and he takes the real police chief back to Wood Oak after dropping the heroes off at Syndicate's secret HQ for the Good Route's final level. Syndicate's secret HQ starts with a brawl through the forested perimeter. Its pathway is lined with rope traps and more ninja. The interior, which looks like a secret lab of some variety, has walls of deep purple, sterile white rooms, and treadmill flooring for some ungodly reason. Treadmill flooring that the enemy are immune to. The Syndicate is so evil they break even the basic laws of the universe. Mid-boss here is the evil Dr. Dom controlling a crane. This battle, well, not terribly difficult, is actually super annoying because you constantly have to walk against the treadmill or you get pushed into an electric fence for huge damage. Otherwise, pretty easy, thankfully. After Dom's machine blows up in his face, you finally confront the real Mr. X, who has been reduced to just a brain in a jar. Man, I must have killed him super fucking hard in 2 for him to end up like that. Mr. X, don't you ever give up. You're helpless. Surrender. That's where you're wrong, handsome one. Handsome one. Mr. X reveals his followers have planted bombs all throughout Wood Oak and is planning on detonating them within the hour. And then he sends out the secret final boss, a robot that soars in circles, shoots missiles, and has 5 goddamn life bars to plow through. By the way, 3 minutes to beat it if you want the good ending. Good luck. After a nightmarish battle, the mech finally goes down. Mr. X's jar breaks, and surprisingly he begs for some mercy, and the heroes refuse, of course. Mr. X then initiates a self-destruct sequence for his hideout. The heroes are trapped inside, and things begin to look bleak, until Adam shows up and blasts a hole in the wall, rescuing everybody and getting them the hell out of Dodge before the facility blows. Afterwards, the team quickly disarms all the bombs across Wood Oak City, and Dr. Dom reveals the identities of all the city officials who've been replaced by robots. And then they slam them into an asylum. He's doing okay, though. Zahn gets pardoned of his crimes due to his efforts in bringing down the Syndicate and saving the city. The heroes hang out for a bit before going their separate ways, and that's the good ending. Credits roll. Oh hey, there's Max. I guess he was just too busy to help for some reason, but he still showed up to steal some glory. You can also achieve a bad ending on this route if you fail to kill the robot in 3 minutes time. The heroes still escape, but all the bombs go off as they didn't have enough time to disarm them. As for the bad ending, if the police chief dies, the heroes realize their only option now is to head to City Hall to stop the fake police chief and this whole mad plot. You actually fight through what is blatantly the White House that's had its name changed to City Hall, and in the climax in front of a huge press audience, you fight Shiva and beat him down. In the ending here, Zahn resolves to stop Mr. X once and for all, and you get an end screen where Mr. X crushes his wine glass in anger. And that's the game. Man, this one was just not fun at all. How do you fuck up the basic beat-em-up formula so badly after absolutely nailing it with the last game? Streets of Rage 3 is such a hard game for some reason, and it really saps any enjoyment you can get from it, even if you're a huge fan of beat-em-ups. But if it's so hard, why not just play it on easy? Well, if you do that, the game ends at stage 5 and you get a bad ending, because fuck you. Later on though, while I was doing research for this video, I learned something. It's just the American version that's extremely hard like this. For whatever reason, they decided to crank the difficulty up for the NA port. Even worse though, the US localization completely changed the story of the original Japanese game for some reason, on top of making a bunch of random changes to characters, their dialogue, and outright censoring a bunch of stuff too. To give you the skinny on the Japanese version's story, since it's actually the canon version if you play Streets of Rage 4, they actually show you the bomb detonating in Wood Oak City, as well as the devastated area thereafter. It elaborated that it killed 30,000 people and injured 80,000 more. And they also cut this sick opening where Axel punches the camera. Story-wise though, there's no police chief kidnapping and the whole robot clone subplot is irrelevant beyond fighting a robo-Axel. What happens in the Japanese version is the Syndicate steals a bunch of Rakushin, using a bit of it to make a bomb at the start of the game. Meanwhile, in the Lima region of the world, a region divided between a bunch of war-hungry countries looking to go to war with one another, is sending a high-ranking general, Ivan Petrov, to speak on peace terms in the United States. The bomb goes off, and in the chaos thereafter, the Syndicate kidnaps the general to prevent peace in the Lima region, since the Syndicate wants to sell Rakushin and make Oingo Boingo dollars off of it. The in-game story flows fairly similarly throughout this version, with each of the endings being in completely the same path, except the final stage for the bad ending is actually referred to as the White House now, since it blatantly is. And instead of a robot copy of Ivan Petrov, it's just Shiva in disguise. Though if you go for the good ending and fail to defeat the robot in time, you get a sweeping shot of a devastated cityscape. Beyond the story, well, there was actually a lot of stuff that was changed for no real reason, seemingly. Axel, Blaze, and Skate actually have their default Streets of Rage 2 colors in the Japanese version, but these are randomly changed in the US. Their 2-player colors for the Versus mode even got changed for some reason. Axel and Blaze's Japanese lines were also changed for the NA port, even if it was something in English like Axel's dashing attack. Female thugs Elektra and Garnet are covered up more in the NA version. It's okay to beat up women, of course, but God forbid they show a little skin, I guess. The Japanese version actually had a mid-boss for Stage 1 in Ash, who is... put it simply, a flaming homosexual stereotype. and so he got removed, of course. He also does a power bomb as a grab, so most likely he was the grappler character, and I was denied my archetype for this game by his removal. Ash actually was an unlockable playable character in Bare Knuckle 3, alongside Rue and Shiva too. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this one has a few unlockable characters you can use. Just not Ash in Streets of Rage 3, unless you use a Game Genie code, of course. On a more minor scale, every thug and weapon was also renamed for Streets of Rage 3, and Blaze's swimsuit in the ending slide was edited to have straps and be a one piece for some reason. The main difference between the two, though, is Bare Knuckle 3 is actually fun to play. The enemies aren't beefy sacks of HP that can drop you in 3 hits. They're more fair, including the bosses who, while a lot of them have multiple life bars, they don't have an obnoxious amount of them. It feels more like playing an actual genuine sequel to Streets of Rage 2 as opposed to that abomination of a North American release. Alright, enough of this shit. It's time to end the video. After playing Streets of Rage 3, I understand why the franchise went dormant for so long. I will say that I genuinely do like the art style of the game. The levels are cool, the enemies are a good mix of classics, and there's some interesting newbies too. The additional mechanics are all great, and a lot of enjoyment can be had from using them, if you play Bare Knuckle 3 and not Streets of Rage 3. But Streets of Rage 3 is just so hard, it makes none of these positives appreciable. All the changes made to the NA localization are just stupid and unneeded too. Bare Knuckle 3 is great though, and it's the version you should seek out if you want to play this one. I'll also say I didn't find the music in this one to be particularly amazing. It was done partially by Yuzo Koshiro with a good amount of help from Motohiro Kawashima, and it's clear that neither really put their hearts into this one. But with the completion of this one, I've now played every Streets of Rage game for the channel, and so I guess I could take the time to rank them like I did for Golden Axe, huh? Obviously, Streets of Rage 4 sits at the top of the lot. Yeah, there's a huge delta in time between 4 and the rest of the games, but there's been plenty of recent sequels and remakes that are genuinely worse than their predecessors. 4 is gorgeous, adds amazing new mechanics to the combat, it's just a perfect evolution of beat-em-ups as a whole. 2 is second. It's honestly one of the best beat-em-ups ever made. Everything was made more responsive and playable. Every change made from 1 only made the game better as well. Bare Knuckle 3 could be slotted in here. The additional mechanics added are fun, and I think it's a perfectly fine sequel to 2, though it's certainly not better. 1 would quickly follow that one. Streets of Rage 1 is not a bad game at all, but it definitely is a bit rough around the edges. Still enjoyable to play, but Streets of Rage 2 is just leaps and bounds better than it. Streets of Rage 3 sits far at the bottom of this list. It got massacred by localization, ending up with a worse overall story, far too much content cut, and the difficulty being cranked so high it makes the game a complete slog to get through. And that's the Streets of Rage series ranked. Sega has announced the new ones in the pipes though. You bet I'm gonna play it when it finally comes out. Anywho though, my name is HadesManticore. This here channel is CityStateManticore. Thanks a ton for watching if you did. Feel free to drop a fat like, a comment, and subscribe because as always there's more content to come. I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.